I saw this the other day and I was like, man, TC and I, like, First Kid is on Hulu.
Oh, I know. I've watched this several times. I've also watched Kazam several times since it's been on Hulu. You know what's really funny is that, yeah, Kazam is on Hulu, and Kazam is actually that movie that, like, when I'm working at home, that's what I just have on in the background.
Oh my god, I'm not surprised. That's so ridiculous.
Shaquille O'Neal raps all of his dialogue.
No way.
At one point, he's rapping to an audience, and he's like, "Are you guys hungry?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Let's green egg and ham it." It's
no,
so
let's not. What's up, bros?
What up, bros?
And welcome to Boy Meets World.
What up, Boy Meets World?
Your Boy Meets World fancast. I'm Ceej.
And I'm TC.
Okay. I honestly was waiting. I was like, are you TC this week? Are you Tony Curtis?
I switched it up from episode to episode.
Okay.
I want to confuse as many people as possible.
I just want to know who I was talking to this week.
I'll respond to anything.
Okay. So, where you at? What's going on?
Well, I just, saw the B Team episode of Boy Meets World. And I have to say, there's a lot I want to talk about, but I mostly want to talk about the fact that a black kid was brought into a basketball episode.
Yeah, dude, I got you had to see my notes because I was like,
it was the first note I took, like the very first note. I was like, glad they brought in a black kid for the basketball episode.
I was like, okay, so a couple things here, and again, I will give them their credit. This episode pivoted when I didn't think it would. But I was like, okay, so are we going to talk about the fact that there's a black kid when we're talking about basketball?
No, he's the Linda of this episode.
It's so crazy. Anyway, are you ready to get into it?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about episode 14 of season 1, which is the B Team of Life. The tell me about it is a frustrated Cory scores a bench position on the school basketball team.
Accurate.
Yep, very accurate. Good summary.
Concise, to the point.
Yeah.
Good for you, Hulu. You're not wasting our damn time anymore. I appreciate that.
All right. So, opening scene. We're in the halls of schools, and the boys include a new classmate named Harris Robertson. Yeah,
of course his name is Harris Robertson. Like, whatever. Man. And what's cool about this black kid though is I will say that, like, he's a cool dude. Like, he has a sweet high top fade. He doesn't feel like he belongs in this school, but he looks like he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he does. It's just random. And at first when I saw him and I saw this and I saw that it was a basketball themed episode, I was like, oh man, we went back to like original format. It almost felt like it was out of order, at least the first 5.
Well, yeah, because we're introduced to a third seat kid, and although the third seat kid kind of serves a purpose, because I don't think that Sean could alienate Cory the way he needed to be alienated in this episode on his own. Like, he needed like to feel excluded from a group of some kind. So I understand why they brought him in. I just wish it was a third seat kid that we had at least been introduced to before, not a brand new kid.
Exactly. That was another thing. I was like, it's not even like original black third seat kid. It's new third seat kid.
So yeah, a little consistency would have gone a long way, but like I said, they needed to make him feel ostracized, and I get that.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, the boys, Harris, Sean, and Cory, watch the coach put up the list, and the list is who made first string, who made second string, and who's not making the basketball team at all.
Yeah, and the boys seem like really just like, oh, I'm not going to get second string. I'm going to get first. Just kind of like being overly egotistical when they haven't even seen the results yet. And I was just like, oh man,
of course,
up for failure.
Well, we already knew that. And then also, it's just like they were like, what's worse, making second string or not making it at all? And I was like, well, I mean, not making the team seems like it'd be worse, but they were like, no, making second string is even worse than not making it at all. And I was like, where's the logic?
I just don't remember there being any kind of just like like exclusion or anything like that between like the bench and I mean I never played basketball in school like that, so I don't know what kind of like bullying took place, but this seems extreme.
All right, so I did play football, and I mean, this is basically just varsity versus junior varsity. And there's definitely prestige to varsity, and there's definitely not as much prestige to junior varsity. So I'm just gonna like.
This is middle school. Are they even playing whole court? Like, what kind of prestige could you possibly have in sixth grade? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure every sport has its own kind of levels of exclusivity, but this seems like a stretch for me.
Yeah, I mean, but also I think, remember, we're still at the area where sports and like things like this are
everything
to these kids. I was also kind of glad it wasn't baseball.
Yeah, I will say I am happy to see that we're able to focus on something other than baseball, because baseball's just so boring.
Yeah, but well, I don't know if it's boring, but I definitely just think it would have been so repetitive. But also basketball was like a huge thing at this time.
Well, I think also just for the fact that just from a timing standpoint, they're in the winter now, so I mean it's basketball season.
Oh yeah, that also makes sense. Okay, so they checked the list. First of all, Minkus checks the list, and he made B team right after there.
He's thrilled. He couldn't be more excited.
He's going to tell his dad. He's so excited.
Well, I mean, for Minkus too, I don't know that. Like, I feel like this would just be something for him to have on an application, like a college application.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a college application, but I also think Minkus has shown interest in trying to what he thinks is a normal kid. So Minkus is not opposed to like these things. He always is looking to join. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think Minkus just likes having a well-rounded education, but he also doesn't buy into like what the
Minkus is the man. Minkus is the man.
So they check the list, and Sean is at A team, and Harris is on A team, and he says a little
Air
Harris, yeah. And I was like, okay, again, God, I don't know if this is problematic, but we're just gonna push forward.
Hey, did you notice how tall Sean seemed in this episode?
Yes, I did. I did notice how tall he is.
Yeah, he's going through a growth spurt in this season for sure.
He is, and it's, as you said, it's kind of really obvious.
Well, it's obvious just because no other cast member is going through that growth spurt. I mean, and like I said, eventually Ben is taller than Ryder, so it's going to be interesting to see that transformation. But still, it's like it seems like he's a good like foot taller than Minkus at a certain point.
Well, yeah, at Minkus, it's just like I kind of feel bad, but it's also really funny because I think Minkus ends up being the tallest out of all of them.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I gotta check, but I just know that when I watched the update, Girl Meets World, Minkus is tall.
Oh, all right, Lee Norris, you coming into it?
Yeah,
late bloomer.
So anyway, Cory checks, and turns out that Cory made the beat team, and he says
it in the funniest way possible.
he's like Cory. He's like Matthews, Cory, A team. Wait, they spelled A with a B.
Oh man, I actually laughed at that point. That was a really funny joke.
Yeah, well, it's funny because also like Sean's like, maybe it's a typo. He's like, it's handwritten.
Yeah, and that actually made me laugh out loud too.
Yeah, exactly. So I love it. And then, again, they had just talked about how terrible it would be to make like the second string. And they're like, now that it involves Cory, they're like, it's not like you're going to lose your friends or anything.
His friends drop him at literally the drop of a hat.
It's fine. So, and that's our opening scene, and we get our theme song again. So, yeah.
Yep. There's the theme song. Moving on.
Okay. Next scene, we have we're back in the classroom. Feeney's teaching us about Homo sapiens, and we get to see some classroom participation from other kids for once, which, it's Minkus and Sean, and then there's this other girl who's like kind of tall for the class, and it's just really interesting to see her and Sean have like this little.
I did not like that Feeney made Minkus the more evolved one and Sean the more de-evolved one. Like, I thought that was showing some kind of favoritism.
Well, there is some kind of favoritism, and then also, I mean, who's going to play their roles the best?
I mean, you're not wrong. I feel like Feeney should, like, I don't know. That seems a little too obvious, but
Yeah, and then also it's, you know what? I was gonna say something, but I think they played it safe because I was and why are we having this girl and not third seat kid? Because we could have used Topanga or third seat kid instead of bringing up a whole.
I would have loved to have seen Topanga in that role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think they played it safe and didn't pull an H&M by making sure that
oh yeah,
third seat kid wasn't anything other than just himself in class.
Just a basketball player.
Yeah, so, they say this little bit about, Feeney asked the question, what came before the Neanderthal? And, of course, Minkus is the only one who knows. And he gives the explanation, and Feeney's like, yeah, so right before the Neanderthal, we were waiting for the lowest form of life to crawl out of the sea and
enter Cory Matthews.
Exactly, which is perfect timing, and the class laughs, and it's like a joke. They're all in on it. Apparently, Cory was off asking and making sure, but yeah, there's no mistake. He is second string.
Yeah, and he's also second string in his whole damn life. Him getting second string, it puts him on a path of depression that I've never seen in a child before.
So that's this is very weird. As I said a little bit earlier, this episode completely pivoted because I'm like, all right, we're kind of doing the same entry that we've been doing, and I was like, okay, we'll have Cory learn a lesson through basketball, but no, they take this whole him making second string very seriously.
Well, especially when we get into the family dynamic, I'm like, damn, this feels personal.
Exactly. Cory Feeney comes up to Cory because the bell rings, and Cory's just sitting in his seat, and Feeney's like, you don't want any lunch? And he's like, why even eat? What's the point? And Feeney's like, I've never seen you this depressed. What's going on? And Cory's like, I made second string. And this is when Feeney says something where, when Feeney gives his response, at first I was like, he's got to be gaslighting him because this is such an inappropriate response.
Yeah, I mean, Feeney essentially tells Cory that he's like, you're not genetically equipped for basketball, essentially. And I was just like, wow, harsh lesson, Feeney.
Yeah, he was like, as far as Darwin's concerned, you're the dodo bird. And he's like, just telling Cory that he's not going to make it. And immediately Cory's like, Darwin doesn't know about sports, and that's when Feeney responds is like, actually, survival of the fittest, and the weak are weakened are pulled out, and only the strong survive. And of course, Cory takes that as a challenge. She's like, well, maybe I'm supposed to evolve. Maybe I'm supposed to climb out of the slime, which I thought was a little weird because he wasn't actually in class when they made that reference.
Sure, yeah.
So I was like, that's just a little bit of writer faux pas. But anyway, Cory immediately takes that as a challenge and gets up and pulls himself and is like, you know what? I'm not gonna let you tell me that I'm not good enough. And that's when you see that was Feeney's point all along.
Yeah, but I do want to say something about this because I feel like there is a point where we're all growing up where we have to realize that physically there's things that we're not able to do.
Oh, yeah.
And it's such a harsh lesson to learn. And it's interesting that Boy Meets World decided to explore that.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good thing. I mean, as you said, just the mere fact that Feeney was like, he was like, Darwin has already decided you're not going to be a basketball player. I mean, and you're like, he's not wrong, but I guess there are lessons to be learned about, I guess, giving it your all, even if you do have certain limitations. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never went out for something where they were just like you can't do that because you're not good enough to do it, but
welcome to my life.
Well, I mean, I guess in school, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because by the time we went to school, they were like, "Oh, anyone can play."
No, yes and no. I remember distinctly people getting cut from football and um, soccer. It was not like anyone can participate.
Didn't we have like those teams though that just anyone could play? There wasn't just the varsity and junior varsity, was there? There's like what's that word?
Intermediate,
Intramural,
intermediate.
intramural.
Yeah, I don't know. Big sports fans over here.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this is me being conceited, but I had no idea.
Yeah, I guess I do find it just very interesting that whole like, I Darwin didn't design you to do this, or you weren't designed to do this, and then just trying to overcome your physical shortcomings. I mean, it's a very aspirational thing, but I mean, just speaking realistically, there's only so much you're able to do with your genetics. So I don't know. I think it's a kind of a big thing for a kid to take on without realizing how big of a thing it is.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the things that like as we explore Boy Meets World, this second go around, it's interesting because they bring up really heavy topics and you can see that they're trying to like just touch on something, but that may not be the theme of the episode. And
Yeah.
it's a very interesting approach. Maybe it's just to spark conversation, or maybe it is just like, of course, adults writing and trying to like wean down their overall thesis into a 30-second or 30-minute.
Sure.
Anyway, in our next scene, speaking of survival of the fittest, we have Eric working out in his room.
I just thought Eric was so funny in this scene, by the way.
He is. Eric is. I was like, we're getting the comedic chops of Eric, and I really, really enjoy it.
I think the show is just seeing what he's capable of, and that they're just kind of like slowly giving him more and more to work with and more to do, and he's able to just do it every time.
Exactly. He has this little thing about like in the next 90 days he's going to be the new Eric because he's trying to get built. And Cory's like, I need the old Eric because the old Eric's the best basketball player I know.
That can't be true.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, really? The best?
I think he's just stroking up his ego.
I don't think so. He legit was like, Eric, I need your help. And I was like, I mean, even if you're older brother, you're telling me that Eric's the best basketball player in this neighborhood.
Also, I've never gotten the idea that Eric would help Cory with literally anything.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But I mean, and to your point, he doesn't.
Yeah, he blows him off every time.
Yeah,
I don't know why Cory even asks.
Because he's young and naive. Cory's like, I need to be better at basketball. And Eric's like, you call that a problem? I laugh at your problem. Ha! And Eric is a little obsessed right now. He thinks he's scum.
Yeah, the reasoning behind his body image issues, or the reason why he's like working out, is so wild to me. Because basically what he tells Cory is the reason why he can't get girls is because he's a sophomore and they all want to get with seniors.
Yep.
But that can't be true. There's no way that every girl in this high school is only dating seniors. We've been to high school. Freshmen date freshmen, sophomores date sophomores. It's not that big of a thing.
Well, of course it's not. This is A, he's speaking in hyperbole, and then B, it's just probably the girls that he wants to. And it's probably not even girls. It's probably like one or two girls who turned him down, and he's just like, I'm not good enough.
I wonder if he's going after senior girls.
Of course he probably is. But then again, another really important thing to give him some credit is it is always known that girls date older, especially when they're younger. So like in high school, I definitely remember like freshmen going after juniors and sophomore and so on and so forth. Or like senior girls or high school girls trying to date college dudes. I mean, again, now that we're older, it all seems creepy, but
Sure. Very creepy.
It was a thing that was done. And then I loved he had just like this little bit about them with their cars and their muscles and their Burger King trainee hats. And again, that's only funny because it's like to them, that's like the peak of cool. to be a
Well, just
perfect
being
fit.
able to bring in any kind of money, just to be able to
Exactly.
like take a girl to a movie without having to ask your mom. I mean, that's a big deal.
Anyway, Cory says that he needs Eric's help, and Eric's like, "Look, the world doesn't revolve around you." And Cory's response is, "I'm starting to get that feeling." And again, we get this little moment of like a poor Cory.
Yeah, I mean, I I think it's important that kids learn that the world doesn't revolve around them, but I mean, it's clear that he is feeling isolated in every area of his life. Maybe it has to do with him being sensitive, or maybe it has to do with people just genuinely not paying him enough attention.
I mean, it's interesting to me because, and we'll get into this a little bit later, especially after the next scene. You know what? Let's just go into the next scene. Next scene, we see Morgan. She's on the table. She's going to be the best princess in the play.
Did this strike you as weird that like she was like really excited to be a princess? Just because I remember in the Halloween episode, like Amy was like, "Don't you want to be a princess?" She's like, "No, I want to be a monster." Like she seemed like she was anti-princess, and
Well,
so
no,
it just I don't know. This strikes me as a little weird.
she was anti-princess when Eric gave her the zombie costume. I think right now, while Morgan's in class, again, she wants to be the best princess in the play. Morgan's just being Morgan. She's being like competitive.
Okay,
You know
yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
probably it.
Cory is like, in this scene, Cory comes in. Turns out that he's already played their first basketball game, or the team has. We find out a little bit later that Cory didn't even get to play. And he's
Well, no one went to
also
his game, so no one knows how he did.
exactly, and he's trying to like talk about it, but the family's all busy. Morgan and Amy have to do this dress thing, and then the timer goes off and they go get cookies. Alan comes home and Cory tries to explain his game to him, but then Eric shows up and
This whole Eric thing of him asking for a car just seemed really stupid to me.
of course it's stupid. But like Eric comes in, and he's like, "I need $36,000."
It's just like, come on, you guys can write better dialogue than this.
Well, Alan goes, "Can you break 50,000?" Which again, I thought was really a good comeback to like such a ludicrous question. But then also, I was like, I bet you that's how much Alan makes.
You think so? 1993, 50 thou, huh?
Yeah.
That house? That house?
I mean, this is Philadelphia. This is, I mean, think about it.
This seems like a nice part of Philadelphia too.
I know, but I'm talking, this is the 90s. Our 2000 expectations of the housing market do not apply.
Hey, listeners, if you purchased homes in the Philadelphia area in the early 90s, can you let us know exactly how much you paid for it? Thank you.
As a matter of fact, hold on one second. Yeah, $50,000 house in 1992 would be 87,000 now.
No, not for that house they were in. That's no, he's making more money than that.
I'm just
Or
like,
maybe Amy is just bringing in so much money through real estate that it's making up for it.
okay. I mean, you know what? No, let me not. Amy could be bringing in the big bucks. We don't know.
We're sleeping on Amy, but she's the breadwinner.
Exactly. That would be hilarious to find out later if they did like a episode way in the future. It turns out Amy was the one bringing in all the money.
I mean, I do question their finances because you're right. Alan shouldn't be making enough to afford the house that they're in, but we'll get into that later.
Oh, well, not only that, but like, are we really going to pull apart TV housing?
You're right.
Okay. Cory keeps trying to tell the story. And everyone, of course, is just chaotic. Eric has like this little thing where, of course, he's like, if I can't get the car, then maybe I can get a motorcycle. And I just like the fact where it's like when Amy comes in, he's like, "Mom, do you want to see me on a motorcycle?" And Amy's like, "No." And he's like, "See, Dad, Mom wants you to buy me the car." And it's just like that childlike logic of argument.
And it just seems like if you're gonna if you're not going to let Cory tell his story, at least have it be because of something that's worth listening to. Like that, I would pay attention to. That would make me sympathize with the parents more if Eric actually had some big news that he was really excited about and it kind of overshadowed Cory. The fact that he dominates the conversation with bullshit, just, I don't know.
Well, I mean, and that's kind of like Cory's problem. Cory is like, look, I'm constantly getting interrupted. I just want to tell you about the basketball game. And instead, he just kind of like starts shouting and gets all animated and is reenacting.
He tells this wild lie story about how he, sunk the last scoring point and how he was a hero and all these things. And like the entire time, I'm just like, oh, it's obvious that he's making this up.
Oh, yeah, completely. And then the family's like, oh, I'm so sorry I missed it. And Cory's like, don't be. I didn't play because I'm second string. And he just kind of says it in like this defeated tone. And so what's interesting is Alan immediately goes to say something, and Amy cuts him off and is like, there is nothing wrong with being second string. And I was like,
yeah,
what was Alan going to say? Because it does, I think it's like this whole father, pride thing, about being.
I think he was gonna like say like we all kind of fall short sometimes or something to that degree, like nothing that makes Cory feel better about being second string, but simply is just like, oh, I'm here for you during this time when you should feel ashamed. And I think that's why Amy was like, no, let's just right off the bat just kind of get this out there. There's nothing wrong with second string.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Alan to me looked like he was about to say something else, but I'll give you that. But Alan does respond, and he's like, well, why didn't you tell us? And Eric's immediately like, I knew that. And they're like, well, why didn't you tell us that? That's why you share a room together. And I was like, well, that's an interesting note for them to put. Like, that's why Eric and Cory share a room. And so the parents can hear what's going on with Cory as he...
Well, I think it's just that thing of just like your big brother, you're supposed to kind of let us know if there's a problem with the sibling. I think all parents kind of expect that of their kids.
Yeah, you're right. As an older child, I'm just like, what? All right. And then Cory is like, look, I was having a crisis and you all are having a family meeting and you're with Eric all day and at the store. And when you're not with him at the store, you're talking about his love life. And then Amy, you're with Morgan all the time and you get it.
I thought this was very interesting. This whole confessional Cory has where he says, Mom, you're always with Morgan. Dad, you're always with Eric. I thought there was like some real honesty behind his character at this moment. Like This is exactly what a middle child would feel. And the fact that we're constantly seeing Amy doing Morgan's hair, and we're constantly seeing, the store, them talking about being at the store together. I could sympathize with Cory in this moment because it seemed like he was accurate.
Well, no, I completely agree. It's one of those things where once he said this and he had his little speech, especially he goes, it's hard being second string at school, but I'm also second string in my own family.
Ooh.
Like, woof.
Wow.
Woof.
That's a hard thing for a parent to hear. Like, oh man, we really messed up this one.
Exactly. And I was like, yo, and again, that was when I saw that this episode would be handling much more than I would give it credit for.
Yeah. Yeah, because what it does is that for the first time, like, it kind of puts the blame on the parents. Like, for the first time, the parents need to learn something.
Yeah, a little bit. And which is funny because the next scene, Amy and Alan are in the kitchen and Alan's like, Cory is overreacting and I think, I'm going to go up there and tell him that. And Amy's like, is he though? We didn't ignore him.
Yeah. And I really do appreciate Amy just like kind of like taking that minute to just say like, you know what, let's check ourselves and see if we did something wrong. She also has a really funny joke where she's like, Cory's going through
middle pause. Which is fantastic. That is a great thing. It should be used
it's a funny joke.
More often. He's going through middle pause. But yeah, no, I actually really like this scene because, again, we've been getting a lot of really good parenting from Alan and Amy. And, nothing against Alan, but I think more so from Amy. Amy just always kills it.
Yeah, and I think it just shows that, even good parents have to work on it.
Exactly.
It's not something that comes easy to everyone.
That's what I loved about it. It didn't show them like just having the answers. Alan had his own reaction, and Amy was like, "No, let's actually talk about this and let's see if there's anything valid in what he's saying, and maybe, we can do better.
And I really liked seeing them as partners in parenting,
Yeah.
which I don't know that we've seen a ton. But I just thought this was a really just important scene.
Yeah, I agree. They say that we got outnumbered because there's 3 of them and only 2 of us. So they devise a little game plan to, make Cory feel seen. And I think it's just fantastic.
And I appreciate it. They're good parents.
Yeah. Next scene, Minkus is like so proud of the past game. He was like, we were cheering on the team and we couldn't have been any closer unless we actually played.
Well, I also love him referring to himself as Minkus Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, that's right. He does do that, which is funny because I don't.
Ridiculous.
Again, I guess that shows how much basketball is big at this time, because you just don't expect someone like Minkus to make a reference like that.
Well, I mean, basketball at this time, I mean, everyone was into basketball, right?
Yep. I mean, that's how we got Space Jam.
You ain't wrong.
Okay. Sean shows up with an issue of Sports Illustrated with an article about a list of players who started off on the bench, which I thought was a really great thing for friends to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting how like there's scenes where they seem to just like completely ostracize him, and there's also scenes where they're trying to make him feel better. There doesn't seem to be any consistency among their friendship.
Oh my God, you mean that 8-year-olds are fickle?
Exactly.
But no, I just thought it was great. I mean, because I think it was one of those things where it's like everyone's having fun at first and they're lighthearted messing with Cory. But as we can see, Cory takes making second string and being separate from his peers a lot heavier than anyone expected.
Cory's just a really sensitive kid. Like, everything bothers him so much. If he has a bad hair day, if he's just like doesn't get the best water gun, like he really is just kind of, I'm not saying he's overly sensitive, but he is just more sensitive than all the other kids in his school, it seems like.
I mean, which is true, but that also is what makes him that's where his intelligence comes from, his observation skills. And I think the thing about Cory is, yeah, he's sensitive because he understands when he does and doesn't fall into the status quo.
Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to applaud Sean for like doing that research, because it's like especially this is before Google. He had to find an article where it actually highlighted people who used to be on the bench.
Yeah, and I also just don't find it like against Sean's character, just like when he's home, just to be looking through a Sports Illustrated. That seems like that's pretty in line with him.
Yeah. But this inspires Cory, and he's like, you know what? I can do that too. I can come back up from the bottom. And he's just like, maybe I'll get to play, and maybe I'll earn 20 points and move up to the A team. And, he's just like, he's confident and he's back and he's determined to be MVP, and he rips over his shirt and shows that he's already suited up, ready to go. And at this point, the coach is just like, Matthews, what are you doing suited up? Second string doesn't play on away games. And
oh, wow. Yeah, that was the look on Cory's face when he found out he wasn't even going to get the chance to go and watch the game. It's like, wow, that's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And it was actually, for me, I was like, all right, a few things here. One, of course, we get one other teacher, and coach is what? What is he, TC?
Oh, you mean the African-American coach?
Yep. The other teacher, what is this, like the first male teacher we've seen?
This is the only other male teacher we've seen. He's not really a teacher. He is the coach.
Yeah.
And he is a colored man.
Yeah, and I was just like, of course. We get a black kid for basketball, we get a black coach, but
he kind of looks like Lieutenant Riggs too.
Yeah, no, I did think that. I thought the exact same thing, and I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah, I was a little bit upset with him for like just ripping away this kid. I was like, you couldn't say that in like some other way. There was like
I also don't put it against Cory that the coach actually made this announcement before and he just wasn't paying attention.
Also very true. You know what? I mean, we're coming at it from two different angles. I'm like, poor Cory. You're like, nah, he probably was warned.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he constantly isn't listening.
I mean, true life. So after that scene, Cory comes home and he's just all sad and seems like no one's around. So
No, he has a Macaulay Culkin moment. He comes home and it's like, I made my family disappear. Like, no one is in the house. There's no sign of anyone. He has no idea where anyone is. It's almost like, for a second, you're like, oh, this is kind of scary for a kid.
But yeah, I mean, it's also very weird because we had just seen the house be like alive with the family. The last time we were here, there was so much chaos going on.
And I think the fact that Cory was saying how much he wasn't feeling like he was getting any attention, and then to come home to an empty house, I think as the audience is like, "Oh, what's going on?" I'm kind of drawn in a little bit more to the dilemma at hand.
For a little bit, because I almost like, and maybe it's just like knowing how TV shows work. I was like, oh, they went to the game. Like I like immediately, I was like, why is no one here? Ah, they're at the game.
I you know what? I didn't see it. So
I did. I did. I was just like, why would they not be here? Like no one's home. And then it dawned on me. But while Cory's watching TV, one of the things I love is he's like, the news is like after not selling enough cookies, one Girl Scout's mom kills the rest of the troop. And Cory's like, that's a supportive mom. And I was just like, no, that's psychotic.
Yeah, that's a crazy mom, Cory. You don't want that.
Exactly. Eventually, after some time goes by, no one's still home, and Cory's like, "Well, I'm hungry. What am I supposed to do for food?" And he goes into the kitchen, and he's.
By the way, I'm so glad that Cory's talking out loud, so we get so we you know how children do. They just kind of narrate their decisions out loud when no one's home.
All right, you know what? Maybe I do narrate my life when no one's home. You'll know.
Different strokes, different folks.
I never know who's watching. I mean, the government could be watching at all times.
Or, I don't mean to tell you this, but you are Truman.
Aren't you not allowed to tell me that?
No, I'm gonna get in trouble.
Okay, but Cory is like looking, and he sees that Feeney's grilling, and so he does like this little thing where you said it's very Home Alone right now.
Like, this actually feels like damn Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
this feels like a cartoon of just like Bugs Bunny seeing like a pie on like a window. Like,
yeah, exactly.
What's happening?
He calls Feeney, and so when Feeney's house, and so that way when Feeney goes to answer the phone, he hops the fence and takes the food that.
Which I actually thought calling Feeney was a really smart thing to do. I mean, stealing food from a neighbor doesn't seem smart, but the way he went about it was kind of clever.
Oh, are you kidding me? My one thing was when he jumped the fence, I was like, how are you going to? And it showed that he brought a fork, and I was like, you know what? Kid has foresight.
Does it seem odd that he just didn't go, hey, Mr. Feeney, I don't know where my parents are. Can I have dinner with you? Like, yes! I feel like that would have just...
Yes, okay. I was like, why didn't he just go up to Feeney and was like, hey, Feeney, I'm hungry?
Because Feeney would have just told him what was up right away. It wouldn't have been this whole thing where he steals the chicken. By the way, he's not successful with stealing the chicken.
No, the chicken immediately, once he hops back over the fence, drops to the ground. And now I'm angry because I know how much chicken costs. And I'm just like...
Why was Feeney making an entire chicken for himself?
They do lots of stuff like this where I'm like, why was Feeney grilling in the backyard of all? It was like, there's just so many times where like Feeney's in his backyard and you're like, why? Why did Feeney have
I imagine that the weather in Philadelphia in the winter is a good time to grill.
That's a very good point. But anyway, when he unsuccessfully tries to steal Feeney's chicken, Feeney comes back out and he's just like, yo, what you doing? Like, and Cory's like, look, I was hungry. My family's abandoned me because I made second string. And Darwin.
Can I just ask you a quick question? I'm sorry. I just before we move on, how mad would you be if you worked all day and you were like, you know what, man, I just really want some damn chicken and it's ready to come off the grill and you go in to grab your plate and you come out and it's covered in dirt because of some kid? yo, I'm not doing anything to help this kid. He can walk to this basketball game for all I care. Give
You're
me some chicken and then we'll talk.
I know, that's what I'm saying. It's just like that's what I said. The moment it dropped, like here's the thing. He sold the chicken. I was like, creative, I'd be mad, but whatever. When it dropped in that dirt, I was like, you know what? Now I'm furious.
Yeah, I don't see why Feeney. I don't know. Maybe I just get hangry more than the other people, but like if I'm about to eat and you mess that up, that's going to be a situation for us. There's going to be consequences and repercussions.
Exactly. So yeah, Feeney is just like, yo, what are you doing? And that's when Cory's like, you know, my family abandoned me and I had to steal the chicken. It was Darwinism. That, you know, Darwin was just like a
Which I thought that was really funny of him, just to be like, it's survival of the fittest, Feeney, just like you taught me.
Of course, that's exactly what Feeney does. I'm sorry, Cory always does. Cory's always like, hey, remember that lesson you taught me earlier? That's why I did what I did.
Yeah, and I just love how Feeney just doesn't buy any of Cory's crap ever.
Why would he? He's like, first of all, stealing is not the exact same as like chasing down a mastodon. And also, your family didn't abandon you. They went to the basketball game.
Man, if he had dropped my chicken, I would have told him his family abandoned him. I would have said, "There's no family for you anymore, Cory. You're done with that. Run.
This is why you're
never return."
I knew you were going there. This is exactly why you are not Mr. Feeney.
No, I'm fine with that.
But yeah, he's like, they went all the way out to see your game, even though they knew that you wouldn't play. And Cory's like, why would they do that? And he's like, well, and then we get this little, of course, Cory and Feeney moment, the Feeney by the fence, if we want to call it.
It's a classic Feeney by the fence moment. I love it.
Exactly. And Feeney's like, because the highest form of evolution is a family of human beings that care. And then Cory's like, well, what if it seems like they don't care? And I love this little lesson right here, which is Feeney's like, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's the part of your personal evolution. Which again is just like they were able to take a topic and make it apply in ways that I just didn't see coming.
Yeah, there's always so many layers to their lesson, which I really love. Like, with some shows, you're like, oh, I get the gist of this about 15 minutes in. But like with Boy Meets World, they're constantly giving you like new stuff to chew on. And it's really nice.
Exactly. And then that, inspires Cory. He's like, look, I need you to take me to the game. I need me to be there for them to be there for me. And he does like this fake little tear thing. And then, as you said, I think this is when Feeney's a little hangry because he's like, have some dignity, man.
Well, he even says, like, I'm not going anywhere until I get some food. And then Cory's like, well, I'll get you a hot dog.
Yeah, exactly. But, ultimately, George is George, and he agrees to take him. And that's when the next scene, we find out that the family comes home, and Cory, making it out to the game, he was able to play.
I will say this just from a television perspective. The reason why we didn't see that game is because they didn't want to build a set for it.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
They didn't even there wasn't even a set for them to borrow. Like they couldn't borrow like the Will Smith Fresh Prince basketball set. Like there wasn't one around. That's why we didn't see it. Otherwise, it would have been far better for the story for us to actually see this instead of hearing about it.
I want to say, like, we didn't get any time with was there a basketball in the episode?
Yeah, that's what I mean. We never saw any basketball being played at all. It was talked about tirelessly, but never saw it.
But then again, we kind of probably want to thank them. There's nothing worse than watching middle schoolers attempt to play sports.
Yeah, but I guess like if Cory has this big heroic moment, it would have kind of been nice to actually see that somehow.
Yeah.
Even if it was just like the winning shot or something. I don't know. It would have been nice to be able to put some, like for us to feel his victory with him.
Yeah, I get that. And Alan, they come back, and of course everyone's proud of Cory. He got 6 points at the game.
Did you notice that Eric comes in and the first thing he says is, those 6th grade girls thought I was so cool.
Yeah, exactly. He needed a little ego boost.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just sensitive to the times that we're now in, but that seems kind of skeevy to me.
Well, no, you're not wrong, especially after last episode. But I think, to me anyway, it was one of those things where Eric was just talking about how much he hates himself and he hates his body and no one's ever going to like him. And having these sixth grade girls was
You're
just.
not making it better. Not making it better.
You know what? I'll stop. I'll stop.
One of the things that I thought was cool was Alan goes on to say, like, hey, I'm super proud of you for the way you handled yourself. And Cory's like, you mean the game? And he was like, well, yeah, the game, but like you came home to an empty house, you didn't freak out, you went to a neighbor, you saw like an adult's help. And I thought that was cool of Alan to give Cory those kind of props.
Yeah, he was like, you commandeered the neighbor's car. And Eric's like, and the neighbor. Like, it's a very good point. So on that, Cory's like, why did you come to my game? You must have known I would be on the bench. And, Amy's like, we always like watching you when we have the time. And when we think about it, your dad still watches you sleep, which is like a nice little sentimental thing. And Amy's like, we're not disappointed if you are second string or third string or no string. Alan's like, we're only disappointed when you don't tell us when something's bothering you, which is a lesson I have to admit I'm still learning. That is like, you got to tell people when you're bothered.
Yeah, like you can't just let people assume that something's wrong. And I also just feel like for parents, obviously we don't have kids, but I feel like parents, like that is the most important thing, that like you come to them when something's wrong, because they're so worried about everything wrong happening to you all the time that when something wrong does happen, they want you to know that you'll let them know what's up.
Well, but like from a child's perspective, you're always thinking that you're going to disappoint your parents or something. Like, don't get me wrong, I think it's really important to talk to your kids. And I think what they do here is great, because they're like, you should always talk to me when you need help. But like for kids, I still know some adults who are like, well, I can't tell my mom or dad, they'll be disappointed. I'm like, they would much rather be able to help you than to find out later,
Sometimes I don't want to hear them give me shit about stuff. If I'm just being honest, like sometimes it's just one of those things where like I know they're gonna help me, but I'm gonna have to hear a lecture with it, and I'd rather just control alt delete that whole situation.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other topic for maybe later episodes of Boy Meets World. But yeah, in general, kids, if you have problems, tell your parents.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is where Cory's like, yo, I tried to talk to you. And even when he says that, Morgan comes down and interrupts. And she's like, you know who's upstairs reading a story to me?
Nobody.
Morgan's little sass. But I pointed out, Amy's like, well, look, you're going to have to wait. They learned that,
they can't give Morgan attention every time she demands it, which is something that I feel like the baby of a family needs to learn anyway.
Exactly. See, remember, side characters, learning lessons.
Bam.
Yeah, but Alan's like, look, if that's the case, you have to make me listen. As long as you have my face, you have my attention. And I immediately welled up because I don't know why, and I'm pretty sure it happens later on in the series, but I
know exactly why this made you cry.
Why?
Because in the series finale, when they're doing like the series finale is made up of all these different flashbacks to previous episodes, and there's a real sweet moment between Alan and Cory, and they do a flashback to this scene of like, and it's so like the moment you see it, you see Ben as like an 11-year-old when you're used to seeing him as like a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's just super just heartfelt and powerful when they use it. So as soon as I heard Alan say that, it just made me think of just how far the show is going to go and just everything that this kid's going to learn between now and then. And yeah, there's definitely some moments that kind of make you well up.
Yeah, and this was one of them. I just love the idea, like the whole premise of as long as you have my face, you have my attention.
And I think Cory's response is so funny, where he grabs Alan's face and he's like, "Dad, what? You're hurting my face."
It is. It's a very cute moment, and I just, oh my god, I was really, really happy with it. And then we get even more sentiment. It's like, if that wasn't enough, Cory's like, when you're 11, you start hanging out at other people's houses and you meet other parents, and I know the difference between good ones and the bad ones. And it's a.
He never quite says the compliment, but like when his parents are kind of like waiting for him to finish, he's like, "What do you want from me, blood?"
Yeah, exactly. which. Yeah, that was what I was going to say next, which is hilarious. But yeah, no, that's a really good sentiment. I think this one really did focus on it somehow focused on family dynamics, and at the exact same time was able to like bring Feeney in to like bring the framing of the lesson.
Oh, every character played a part, and like the perfect part, and it was the perfect amount of every single character. And I just yeah, no, this was a good episode.
Yeah. All right. Epilogue. Find out that Feeney's a speed demon. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that is what it is. Okay, let's move into Feeney, Tommy.
All right. Well, I mean, the lessons are abundant, I feel.
Yeah,
I think
there's so many lessons.
the biggest lesson to learn is, well, is there a biggest lesson? I feel like there's just a lot of several lessons about Cory learning that he can't be defined based on his basketball position, his parents learning that they need to be more in tune to all their children. Eric learning that sixth graders will make him feel better about himself. I
You made that so creepy.
No, Eric made it creepy.
But continue.
So yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of lessons. I'm sure I'm probably missing some. What did you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm always looking at like what some of like the overall lessons is, and I think what Feeney, and I always try to go back to what Feeney says because he's usually like a good summary of it, but like the highest form of evolution is family and of human beings that care, and then just mirroring that with when you don't think that they care, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that is a really great lessons of just like always being mindful of how people important to you play a role in your life, whether it's
Sure.
parents making sure that you're giving the kids a certain amount of attention that they need, and kids knowing that if your parents don't give you all the attention you want right now, that doesn't mean they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's good. I think that was a good overall lesson. Thank you, Phoebe. Thank you for teaching us.
What grade did you give this?
I enjoyed this episode, but I will say that it's not one of my favorite episodes. Like if we were doing like a greatest hits of Boy Meets World, I wouldn't think to include this on that. So for that reason alone, I'm going to give it a B minus.
I kind of, you know what? I'm learning your grading scale, and I kind of felt that, but I'm also going to give it a B minus.
All right. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong; it's not a bad episode, but there's just nothing extraordinary about it either. And so I just wanted to kind of be fair to those episodes that are really special.
Well, I mean, we know how you're doing, which is like grading on the whole series scale. For me, I'm almost always grading like in the moment, and even
compared to the episodes this season, like
that's what I was gonna say.
Better episodes.
Even in this season, it's just like this was a good episode, but I felt like it did miss a certain something. I'm not sure what that certain something was.
Topanga. It was Topanga.
You know what? You're probably right.
Because every episode with Topanga's a better episode just because she's in it.
I mean, look, I'm not going to deny you at all. So you guys let us know what you think. Make sure that you check us out at Bruh Meets World. Email us at bruhmeetsworld@gmail.com. TC, anything to wrap up?
Yeah, just make sure to leave us your comments and reviews. Let us know what you guys like. Let us know what you don't like. Hey, if your parents ignored you growing up, let us know those stories. And check us out on our social media. As always, you can check me out on Anna Kendrick Retweets and A Braver Me on Instagram. Ceej?
Yep, you can check me out on Twitter at Extra Ceej. That's XTRACEEJ. I am currently live tweeting every time I watch a Living Single because that is.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think everyone should watch a few episodes of Living Single this week. We're gonna, guys. It's Martin Luther King Day. I know we're not going to release it, but we're recording on Martin Luther King Day. Do it for us.
Yeah, do it for the culture.
Do it. Yeah, we gotta. Black excellence, y'all.
Exactly. And to that point, remember to dream.
Hey, you know who also remembered the dream? Martin Luther King.
I knew that. Sorry, yeah. Dream, try, and do good.
Dream, try, and do good. Later, bro.
Later, bros.